So this is technically the second video, right? It's the back side of the practice midterm. Number 15, we're going to jump right into it. That's a proportion where you have one fraction equal to another fraction. We're going to cross multiply, all right? You take this numerator, 35, and multiply it by that denominator, 13. That's 35 times 13. Then you have the equal sign, and then you take the other denominator, w, and multiply it by the numerator, 5. That's w times 5. So what we have here is a simple one-step equation. So with the calculator, go ahead and multiply 35 times 13, which is 455, equals 5w. And of course, we want to get rid of that multiplication of 5 in front of the w, so we divide by 5, divide by 5. 450 divided by 5 is 90, and then 5 divided by 5 is 1, so 91 should be your final answer. W equals 91. Of course, use a calculator. That'll be easier. 455 divided by 5. Moving on, number 16. Solve the equation or formula for the variable specified. And they're telling you to solve for d. All right, so we want the variable d all by itself on one side of the equal sign. Since d is on the left side of this equal sign, let's get this d by itself on the left side of this equal sign. So let's first get rid of the positive 2h by subtracting 2h. That'll get rid of it. And what you do to one side, you must do to the other. Subtract 2h. So when you think about this, 8 take away 2h, you can't really subtract letters from numbers. They're not like terms. So we're just going to rewrite it. Let's actually rewrite everything that we have. On the left side, we have df. Then we have the equal sign, and then, like we said, you can't subtract 2h from 8, so let's just rewrite it. 8 take away 2h. For my final step in solving for the variable d, I would need to get rid of this multiplication of f. That's with the d. So let's get rid of the multiplication of f by doing the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. So you put a fraction bar, which is a division, right there. The f's will cancel out, and of course what you do to one side, you must do to the other. Now, you could do it to each one of them, but when you have a bunch of variables like this, it's probably better to just put the whole thing divided by f. But then again, both answers are acceptable, but put the whole thing divided by f. There's your final answer. D equals 8 minus 2h, all divided by f. And if for some reason you don't see that answer on the multiple choice, then yeah, maybe they separate that division of f. They put 8 divided by f minus 2h divided by f. That might happen, but I think this one is the way it's going to look. Moving on, number 17, we want to solve for a. So you want to get a by itself on the left side of the equal sign. So let's start moving things away from the left side of the equal sign. So I want to get rid of this minus 9c by doing the opposite, plus 9c. Plus 9c. What you do to one side, you must do to the other. Once again, you can't really combine the variables d's with c's, right? You can't combine donkeys with chickens. So you're just going to rewrite it exactly the way it is, 9d plus 9c. So here's my equal sign. On this side, I want to put the 9d plus 9c. You couldn't actually add those. What do we have left on the left side? Well, this canceled out. On the left side, we do have the negative 6ab. You know what? I already forgot what I'm solving for. What are we solving for? A. Okay, so we want to get a by itself. So let's understand this. The left side currently says negative 6 times a times b. So you have a in the middle, and you're multiplying both by negative 6 and b, right? So if you want to get rid of the multiplication of negative 6 and the multiplication of b at the same exact time, let's just do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing by those values that you want to get rid of. The negative 6 and the positive b. You do both of those. That way, the negative 6's cancel and the b's cancel. Now, what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So if you divided this left side by negative 6b, you're also going to divide the right side by negative 6 with a b. So your final answer is A equals, and the only probable difference between what we have right here and the answer probably on the multiple choice is that they're probably going to write this minus sign either out here in the middle, or they actually distribute it to both terms on the top. I'm going to put it in the middle. I believe that's what they write on the answer multiple choice. A negative sign in the middle, and everything else is the same. 9d plus 9c over 6b. So I believe they wrote it this way. They might split up that fraction and write it as a equals, you know what, let's just leave it like that. Especially because the minus sign is out here in the front. Now that does not mean that you'd have a minus up here and down here, because that would make the whole thing positive. That either means that the minus sign is up on the top or on the bottom. I put it out here in the front. That's how you're going to see it on your answer, on your multiple choice answer. Let's move on, number 18. 18 looks fun. Right there, it's just about the order of operations. How do we do this? And we should know that whenever you do have a fraction, simplify the top first, simplify the bottom, and then worry about dividing at the very end, okay? So we are using PEMDAS. Let me write it down. P for parentheses, E for exponents, M and D for multiplication or division, and they're both blue because multiplication does not have to come first. It just depends what comes first from left to right. And then at the very end, we have addition or subtraction, both in the same color because it goes from left to right whenever you're faced with both addition and subtraction. And once again, when you do have a fraction, go ahead and simplify the top and then simplify the bottom. So let's not worry about, that's why I covered up the bottom. Let's not worry about the bottom right now. We're going to do the top and then we'll simplify the bottom. So we're going to do one at a time. Let's start with the top. And up on top we have, do we have any parentheses up on top? No. Do we have any exponents? Yes, we have an exponent right here, 3 squared and 5 squared. So let's do E, exponents. What is 3 squared? Anybody? What's 3? 9, right? What is 5 squared? 25. So what I really have up on top, let me rewrite this whole top part of the fraction. 3 squared, that is 9. And we still have the times 5, we still have the minus 3, and we said times, and 5 squared we said was 25. So we've done E exponents. Now let's move on. Is there any multiplication or division up here on top? Yeah, there's multiplication here and there. So we're going to go from left to right. What's 9 times 5? 45. And then 3 times 25 is 75. So I would, rewrite it again. So I put equals, 9 times 5 is 45, 3 times 25 is 75. There is a minus sign between it. And 45 take away 75, that is negative 30. So up on top we have negative 30. So we have negative 30 up on top. And on the bottom, let's go through 3 times 5 is 15. So what we really have is negative 30 divided by 15. That answer is negative 2. So the answer number 18 is negative 2. Moving on, number 19. 19 says write an equation and solve each problem. Okay, 19, 2 less than. So what does less than imply? Subtraction, and you switch the order. All right, so less than is a minus sign. The 2 used to be first, but we're going to put it over here second. So less than what? 1/4 of a number. So what is 1/4 of a number? That's 1/4 of any variable you want. X, N, whatever you want. A. But it depends what they use for that variable on the multiple choice. And then the is 5, that really means equals 5. So there's your equation. 1/4 x minus 2 equals 5. So if I wanted to solve this equation of 1/4 x minus 2 equals 5, you would add 2 to get rid of it, and add 2, so you'd have 1/4 x equals 7. I know I didn't show my work there. I hope you guys are able to follow along. Once again, if I go plus 2 here, it'll cancel, plus 2 here, it'll become 7. So I have 1/4 x equals 7. I multiply both sides by 4, and I'll get x equals 28. There's my answer for 19. Now, of course, they do want you to find the equation itself and then the answer, both. On your multiple choice, you should see both. Question? That's a good question. Would you get the same answer if you decided to get rid of the fraction first by multiplying by 4? And yes, you would, as long as you remember to multiply everything by 4. Got that, Angel? So if I go times 4 here, but you also have to multiply the 2 times 4, which would give you 8, and the 5 times 4, which would give you 20. So then you'd be adding 8 to and so you would get the same answer. But just make sure that if you get rid of the fraction first, make sure you multiply everything by that denominator 4. So this times 4 and that times 4, you should get to the same answer, 28. Number 20, translate the equation to a verbal sentence. They don't even want us to solve this guy. All right, so how could we translate this? We're going to say 5 what? How do I represent 5m? Could you open the door, please? 5 times m. That's the 5m. And then we're going to say plus. That's the plus sign. Now, this is an addition problem right here in parentheses. So I hope we remember that when we're trying to write a sentence or the phrase for an addition problem in parentheses, that would be called the sum. The sum. That means that you're adding inside parentheses, the sum. And what is it that we're adding? The sum of m and 9. And of course, the equals, you could say equals, or you could say is 130. So that'd be the complete sentence right there, the verbal phrase, 5 times m plus the sum of m and 9 is 130. Now, there's many other ways of saying it also. You could have said 5m increased by the sum of m plus 9 is 130. There's many different words that we could use. I guess the goal on the midterm will be to identify the only correct option of the 4 multiple choice, right? So it's pretty hard to just come up with these words on your own, but it's a lot easier to just read through them and eliminate the ones that are wrong. All right, this next one says simplify each expression. If not possible, write simplified. Okay, so let's look up here. Could we simplify number 21? Could you do anything with that to make it nicer? Yeah, all you do is combine like terms, right? You have 21 of these guys. You have 7 more of those guys. You have a total of 28 of those guys. 28x squared. Do not change exponents, right? The only time you change exponents is when you're multiplying. And right here, we're obviously adding. We're combining like terms. It's like I have $21. I have 7 more dollars. I have $28. You don't have $28 squared or $28 to the 4th power. It just stays exactly the same. So whatever you have right here, x squared combined with another x squared, you just have more of those same exact x squares. Moving on, number 22. Evaluate each expression. What does evaluate mean? Plug it in. That's what evaluate means. Plug it in. So what are we going to be plugging in? The a value of 12, the b value of 9, the c value of 4. So let's plug in the a value. Okay, let's first rewrite what we have without the letters. We have 3 parentheses a minus b in parentheses squared minus 8 and then times c. So the a value is 12. Let's put a 12 right here where the a is at. The b value is 9. Let's put a 9 where the b is at. And the c value is 4. Let's do that one in green. Put a 4 right there where the c used to be at. Now, let's not make the mistake of thinking that that says minus 84. After all, there is multiplication between the negative 8 and the c, which means that there's multiplication between the negative 8 and the 4 because c is 4. So let's go through this. PEMDAS, are there any parentheses? Yes, absolutely. Zoom into those parentheses and do the math. 12 take away 9 is 3, correct? So let's rewrite this. Inside of the parentheses, I'll have a 3. Let me bring down everything else. The 3 in the front, the squared, the minus, the 8 times 4. So we've done parentheses. Even though the parentheses are still there, there's nothing to do when you zoom in. It's just a nice natural number 3. What else? After parentheses, we move on to e exponents, and we do have exponents. That's a 3 squared, which is 9. So I really have a 9 right here. And I could keep the parentheses just to remind me that I need to multiply by the 3 that's out here in the front. And then minus 8 times 4. So again, I've done parentheses, that's how I got the 3. I did exponents, that's how I got the 9. And then we move on to M or D, multiplication or division. And we clearly have multiplication right here and here. So 3 times 9 is 27. 8 times 4 is 32. And of course, this minus sign, I just simply brought it down. So we have 27 take away 32. You have $27, that's a lot of money. You owe somebody 32. You can't even pay them off. You could give them the 27, but how much do you still owe them?
15.
You still owe them 5. Yeah, I hope you don't, yeah. So if you have 27, you owe 32, you could give them the 27, you're still going to owe them 5. So the answer is -5. Of course, use a calculator, especially on the midterm. These guys are the most fun, the most entertaining. What do I mean by that? Absolute value equations require you to do both a positive situation and a negative situation. So for the positive situation, we're going to take that exact absolute value equation and rewrite it without the absolute values. So I have s plus 4 equals 2. For the negative situation, we do the same exact thing without the absolute values, but we change the sign of the right side. So I will have s plus 4 equals -2. And we're going to solve both of them and get both of our answers. So if I subtract 4 and subtract 4, I will get s equals -2. That's one answer. Subtract 4, s equals -6. That's another answer. So your two answers for number 23 are -2 and -6. Okay? Number 24. Again, we're going to have to do both situations, the positive situation and the negative situation. What's the difference between the two? Well, the positive situation would be rewriting it exactly the way it is without the absolute values. And the negative situation is to rewrite it the same thing without the absolute values, but change the sign. Normally it's on the right side, but in this case the 8 is over here, so change the 8 to a -8. So you have a -8 equals 2x plus 4. And then you solve both of them. We're going to subtract 4. Subtract 4. You will have 4 equals 2x. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. X equals 2. 2 equals x. That's one answer. The other answer, subtract 4. Subtract 4. You'll have -12 equals 2x. Final step would be to divide by 2. Divide by 2. And you will get x equals -6. So your two answers for number 24 are 2 and also -6. Last but not least, the end of it all. Write a verbal expression for each algebraic expression. There's only one. Let's actually write this. And there's many different ways of writing it. So let's begin with anybody. What could I say right here? What is happening between the 4 and the n?
4 times n.
There you go. 4, instead of writing the word 4, I'll just write it, times n, but what else do I say in words? Squared. And then we could say divided by 7. You know what? What's a fancy word for divided by? Quotient. So how about this? Let's go back. And let's look at this whole thing. Yeah, I'm sorry, but this is it. The whole thing is a division problem, so let's begin with that word, quotient. Let's say the quotient of something and something. All right, so what's up on top?
4.
4 times n squared. The quotient of 4 times n squared and what else? 7. That's it. That's probably the best, most likely answer on your multiple choice. The quotient of 4 times n squared and 7. Again, we could have said it differently. We could have said 4 times n squared divided by 7. But I like the quotient of 4 times n squared and 7. And that's about it, guys. All you got to do is study, practice, midterms on Friday, get a good grade. I'll replace one of your lowest grades with whatever you get on the midterm. So take advantage of that opportunity.